those that don't know me, we're farming just across the river. So it's 430 acres of low vale land. We're farming a range of crops: wheat, barley, rape, spring beans, spring linseed, spring beans as well. We've got permanent grass on the farm. We've also got temporary grass leys on the arable. Some are grazed, some are silaged for the cattle. 40 cow pedigree suckler herd. We range from blow-away sand through to some fairly heavy clay loams. So we're farming a bit of everything. And the system I use works very well across all those different soil types. We've been in the mid-tier. We've extended it, so we're in our final year, our 6th year now. We'll see what happens going forwards after that. And we've been in a SFI from the start. So we try and do as much as we can. A lot of it is getting paid for what we already do, which we'll touch on as we go on. How I farm since 2014 really can be summed up with farming with nature using biology. So farming regeneratively since then. Just quickly through the minimal soil disturbance, we're entirely no-till. A long and diverse rotation, diverse cover crops within that, and using soil armour, whether that be living plants or crop residue. We're grazing livestock on the arable, and context, we've got to try to have the right option in the right place. We haven't tried to grow soya, for instance. And soil health for me, the soil comes first in whatever I do. So we haven't used insecticides for 8 years now. We haven't used any seed dressings for a similar length of time. We don't use any plant growth regulators. We don't use any compound fertilizer, i.e. any MOP or TSP. So we've brought down the inputs, but also brought down the factors that affect the soil biology and the soil health, and letting the soil work for us rather than us working for it. So we've really brought those inputs down. And by having a healthy soil, we therefore then have healthy plants, which then don't need all the chemical inputs. So we might use a single synthetic fungicide once a year, but that is it. And several years, we haven't used any synthetic fungicides whatsoever. We're doing all that using primarily micronutrition. So keeping the plants healthy, finding out what they need, what they're short of, and addressing that. And through having those healthy plants, they don't attract the insects, they don't attract the fungal diseases. There's other factors as well, which we'll cover, but that's primarily it. Healthy soil equals healthy plant, okay? We've got cover crops wherever we can, so wherever we've got a spring crop in the rotation, we've got a cover crop beforehand. If we have bare land for any reason, like a couple of years ago when it was so very, very wet, we put cover crops in as soon as the land is right. We'll go in with the cover crop, then follow with wheat. Everything's in by using no-till, so we're literally cutting a slot, 10 mil wide slot, dropping the seed in, closing the slot, and that's it. There's no cultivation whatsoever. We haven't done any cultivation since we started in 2014, other than some very high mag land that we did subsoil 4 years ago. 45 acres on the whole farm. That's it. Got a lot of infield diversity. So in the wheat, there's 4 varieties within that blend. So we're currently growing milling wheats. So there's Crusoe, Chia, Vibe, and also hard group 2, Palladium in there as well. So they're all very naturally high in protein. They're also from different breeding. So we've got diverse breeding in there as well, diverse parentage. And that delivers us a group 1 on 180 kilos of nitrogen to the Green Farm Collective spec, which we'll cover. Companion crop in the rape and the wheat and barley. Again, keeping the diversity within the rotation, keeping nitrogen producing plants in the rotation as much as we possibly can. And then obviously the cattle or the forage on the arable land is all herbal leys, and we're introducing as much herbs and legumes into the permanent grass as we can as allowed. So bits within that, we do drill on the green. So I was putting spring beans into an oat volunteer crop. That was in the days of early not SFI, that was ELS. Rather than have a bare stubble, I drilled a very low population of oats in. So that was drilling spring beans into a spring oat cover, or an oat cover. With some land, just again the ewes, the other side, back Boxing Day 2015, that flooded to anywhere between 8 and 15 feet deep, and it was covered for 3 months. In my view, it wasn't fit come March, April to drill commercial crop into. So come June, 1st of June, having put muck on, I then put a cover crop in. That was 12 weeks later. So there's sunflowers knocking the rear mudguard covers on the tractor. There's a lot of vetch, clover, camelina. So that was our first venture into a true summer cover crop. That went on. Come spring, it looked a little bit rough because of all the sunflower stalks, but that went on to do 5 tonnes an acre of wheat. It was a fantastic crop. And that's getting the soil biology working. We're absolutely inundated with worms. Mentioned about having blends of varieties within crops. So this French epidemiologist, so powdery mildew, half the powdery mildew with a blend, big reduction in septoria, big reduction in brown rust, just by having blends, varietal blends. Speak to Richard, who's at the back, my agronomist, who walks conventional as well as regen, mono variety as well as blends, not just on my farm but elsewhere. And the difference that Richard sees in fungal levels is huge. It really is a no-brainer. I'm doing it for a milling wheat, whether you're doing it for a biscuit or for feed, there isn't an issue growing blends. The market is happy about it. So, as well as the micronutrition, I do put biology on as well. So I use I brew it up from a concentrate, 24-hour brewing up process. Very, very simple. It's just done in an IBC. So use Bio plus T, put that down the spout when I'm drilling, along with liquid gypsum and some silicon, and that will eat any fusarium that's on the seed. Primarily, we're home-saving seed, and we do get it tested. I haven't yet needed to apply an SPD dressing to the seed. The worst thing you can do for your soil health is to put fungicidal seed dressing on your seed. And to me, it's absolutely criminal that the seed processors, the Frontiers, etc. of this world, automatically put SPD on all their seed stock. None of it's tested. If you're saving your own seed, get it tested. If it doesn't need SPD on it, don't put it on. Just drill it bare. It's not a problem. It grows a lot better, actually. So that's the drilling biology. That's brewing up. So it's just an aerator, a bigger version than a fish tank, basically, an aerator, just for brewing up. So there's what we're doing in there, the Bio plus T, there's half a kilo of Bio plus T in there with molasses, and that's it, and that just brews up for 24 hours. On the leaf, it's a slightly different bacterial concentrate, and that's consortium. And again, very, very cheap, and we use that with the silicon, and that's basically your fungicide. If you want to test your soils, It's called a slate test, very, very straightforward. Lump of, where are we? Gone. Lump of soil in the left-hand jar. You dry out a chunk of soil, put it in the top of the jar. Likewise, this is the regen soil, all held together with the glues, the glomalin that Steve's talked about. And this is the conventionally treated soil, or conventionally farmed soil, which is completely broken apart. It's not held together whatsoever. And that is the River Ouse at the moment, and every river in the country. And that's all your topsoil, your best soil, as well holding all the nitrogen and the phosphate and other nutrients. And your best soil is just washing away. People often challenge me on figures. Are you making money? You know, you're spending so little. A conventional approach costs £850 a hectare in cultivations and fungicide and nitrogen. I'm doing it for £380, £370 a hectare. So at current costings, at £170 a tonne of wheat, that allows me to be nearly 3 tonnes a hectare less yield than a conventional, and I'm still on the same margin. But I'm not 3 tonne a hectare down. I'm pretty much at conventional yields, but just spending a lot less to get there and harming the soil a lot less to get there. On the cattle, Leys are our breed, French breed, but they're not a continental type. They're not a Belgian blue type. They're very much a maternal breed, biggest pelvic capacity of any breed in the world. Calve on their own, look after the calves, milk very well, and they'll do it all on forage. To increase our income, we went pedigree, so we're selling breeding bulls and breeding heifers primarily. And as I said, they're primarily on herbal leys. We also mob graze, so what we're trying to do is we're just grazing, allowing the plants to get to maximum size, to be in that top of that sigmoid curve. So when we do graze, we only graze down to 4 inches, absolute maximum. That allows the plants to recover far quicker, and by controlling the grazing, we have a far longer turnout period. We've saved ourselves a fortune. So that's our 2 fields, primarily the left-hand one, it's just coming out this spring. It's going into spring beans, but that's been in herbal lay for the past 5 years. So we're just moving that field across, or the fencing and the water across. The bottom field is permanent. So that's the sort of grass we're looking for, and we can get that all year round, no problem. That's on permanent grass, that's on the ryegrass. And controlling the cattle movements with temporary electric fencing and temporary water. So the system we use comes in from New Zealand. So what we've got is a hydrant. So if you're familiar with the back end of a tractor, the female coupling on the back of a tractor for hydraulics, very, very similar system. So we've got that on the main line, and we've got one outlet every 40 metres down the length of the field, the centre of the field. And then on the pipe for the water trough is the male connector, and you just plug in. And then trough, we'd move the trough every day, and as you get to the end of your pipe, you just move to the next hydrant. Very, very simple, very straightforward. And just pull that with a quad bike each day. So they're moved every day, and when they're in the herbal lay, that's sort of how they look. Up to the bellies in forage, real range of forage, chicory, bird's foot trefoil, white clover, red clover, festoliums. There is grass in there, but a lot of it is the legumes. Again, costings, we've saved an absolute fortune. We don't creep feed anymore, and we have the same weaning weights as we did before. We've not lost anything on weights. We've saved a fortune on buffer feeding the cattle whilst they're outside, and then by bringing them in later in the year. That's equated to, for our herd, just short of £10,000 a year, every year. And then if you want to bolt on herbal ley payments from SFI, that rises significantly. The setup cost was just under 4,000 in water pipes and fencing, but that's a one-off cost. So it's paid for itself in the first year. With the stewardship, basically everything on there we do, but we're doing it anyway. So why not get paid for it? So we've taken the payments, thank you, but we're doing it anyway because it fits how our system works, whether it be mob grazing, whether it be buffer strips or whatever. As Steve mentioned, the SFI, nil insecticide payment, £45 a hectare. Companion crop payment, £55 a hectare. Doing it anyway, claim it. Direct drilling, cover crops, herbal leys. Doing it all, claiming it. Whilst it's there, we'll claim it. Once it's not, then we have to move to a different system. Whether that be putting out to private companies or whatever. But whilst it's there, we'll have it. Just finally, I think, I'm one of the four founder members of the Green Farm Collective. You may not have heard of us. We're all previous Soil Farmer of the Year, either winners or finalists. We're all carbon negative farmers. So there's myself, Jake Freestone, Tim Parton, and Mike Kavanagh. We set GFC up to try to keep the job right because we were sick and tired of greenwashing claims and regen claims. There's people marketing stuff out there that it may have been grown regeneratively in that 1 year, but the whole farm hasn't been found regeneratively for the other 7 years of the rotation. But because that spring barley has had a cover crop before and it a little bit of urea on it, they're calling it regen grown, but it isn't, because the whole farm isn't. Ourselves, to be a member, you have to farm the whole farm regeneratively. And we've got that verified. We've done all our own verification. We've set up standards that are needed, and that is done through Food Integrity Assurance, which looks after the Scottish red tractor. So it is entirely legitimate. And for that, we're achieving a premium. Currently milling wheat, so our milling wheat spec, rather than 13%, is 11.5% protein, 250 Hagberg. And for that, you get Group 1 premium price plus £20 with a maximum nitrogen of 180 kilos. There's other bits in there, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. That's our flour. So currently, the flour they're using at the moment is from the wheat I grew this past year. So that's available in 16 kilo bags if you want to buy some. It's on the Eurostar Commodities website. The brand is Rise Regen. And it's in two specs. There's strong white flour, which is pizza and bread flour. Makes excellent sourdough pizza basis. There's also all-purpose flour, which is basically UK plain flour, but it's baker speak. And we've got our conference, the Yorkshire Showground, on the 20th, Wednesday, the 20th of May. And we've got some great speakers lined up, and it literally is going from soil to slice. There's quite a bit on the human nutrition impact as well of conventionally farmed produce to regenerative farm produce. I think I squeezed that in. Thank you.